Joining me now from New York is Leta Fisher. She's the author of Betraying Big Brother, The Feminist Awakening in China. Leta, thanks so much for being with us. Peng Shuai's case has the world's attention right now, but how representative is her situation of what many women face when they make allegations of harassment and worse in China?
Well, of course, Peng Shuai is very famous, but the vast majority of women who speak out about sexual abuse in China are not known at all. What is very typical is that as soon as somebody puts a personal story of sexual abuse on social media, it's quite common for the censors to kick in. There's been a very harsh crackdown on all kinds of feminist activism and feminist discourse online. The MeToo movement is very heavily censored. And so the fact that Peng Shuai's Weibo post disappeared within 30 minutes is very typical. But of course, everything that's happened after that is unusual.
Talk more about the impact of how it's become incredibly difficult for China's own Me Too movement to even exist because of censorship in China. Authorities literally blocking the Me Too hashtag, scrubbing mentions of incidents from the internet, including Peng Shuai, but many, many others as well. What does that say about Me Too issues and how they're treated by authorities in general in China?
Right. Well, the Chinese government really sees feminism as a threat. And it's ever since the Me Too hashtag went viral globally at the end of 2017, the Chinese censors inside China have been very aggressive about wiping it off the internet, although sometimes it still gets through. It's not a complete blackout on the internet. So it is very difficult for any victim of sexual abuse to use the internet in China, to social media, to gain attention. And yet messages have been getting through. And it's kind of amazing, given the not just internet censorship, but the very heavy propaganda apparatus.
It was only a couple of months ago that the activist Sophia Huang, I think it's Shuai, was arrested for, quote, inciting subversion of state power. Others who've made allegations have had to deal with being attacked themselves. There have been retaliatory defamation charges and so on. What happens to feminists or women's rights activists who speak out strongly?
Yes, well, sometimes they are detained. Most notably in 2015, there were 5 feminist activists who were actually jailed for merely planning to celebrate International Women's Day by handing out stickers about sexual harassment on public transportation. So most of the time, though, the perceived troublemakers, the feminist activists or Me Too activists, they'll be heavily censored, they may be persecuted, they may be taken in for questioning very aggressively. Sometimes security agents or police will talk to the women's landlords to put pressure on the landlord to kick the woman out of her apartment. That's happened a lot with feminist activists. And in the last few months, several prominent feminist activists have had their Weibo accounts completely deleted.
There's only one woman in the party's Politburo, and I think that says a lot. How entrenched is male domination in a top-down sense?
Oh, well, I mean, I make the argument in my book, Betraying Big Brother, that China has a system of patriarchal authoritarianism. It's very much all about male domination and the subjugation of women. There's a lot of misogyny and sexism. In terms of women's political representation, there has never been a woman on the standing committee of the Politburo in the entire history of the People's Republic of China. There's very little representation of women at the Politburo, and even beneath the Politburo in the Central Committee, there are very few women. In fact, there are fewer women today than there were in the past on the Central Committee.
Do you think there will ever be an investigation into the initial allegations, as the outside world demands when it comes to Peng Shuai, given how close the former Vice President Shen Jiaolai was to the President Xi in the hierarchy? Do you think it'll ever be looked at?
So I think it's virtually impossible that the authorities in Beijing would ever truly investigate Peng Shuai's allegations. I mean, it's just elite political leadership in China is a complete black box. We never know what is really happening with any of these senior leaders, and that is what makes Peng Shuai's accusation against this extremely senior former former vice premier of China just so incredibly explosive. And there's this rape culture that is endemic in particularly at the very senior levels of the Communist Party, and Peng Shuai's accusation providing details about the sexual assault at the highest levels of the Communist Party. This is extremely politically sensitive. And so it's no wonder that Beijing is carrying out this elaborate kind of propaganda effort to try to just deal with the mess.
Yeah, and I think it's telling that all of the videos that have been released have not been on platforms readily seen in China. And I think that says a lot too. Leta Fisher, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a delight to be here.